All right. Hello, listeners. Welcome to this episode of Weight Loss Winformation. And I'm pretty sure all of you know our guest today, Bill Streetman. But Bill is going to be talking about his amazing book, which is titled Simple, Not Easy: Escaping the Prison of Obesity. So, welcome, Bill, all the way from Korea.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, tell everybody what
Yes.
you're doing over in Korea, for goodness sake.
Well, we sold our house of 35 years in Columbus and basically picked up and moved to Korea for at least half the year, as it's where my two grandsons live. And they're 5 and 2, so obviously they live with my son and daughter-in-law. But we missed them and didn't get a chance to see so much of the first early years that we said, we're just going to do it. It was hard to sell all my possessions, um, so much so that I still have a bunch in storage back home. But when I get back in a couple of months, all that stuff's going too. It's kind of, sometimes you just have to stage these things because it's hard to make that radical of a change. But because my son's lived in Korea for 13 years, 14 years, we've been here a lot. So I've been here about 8, 9 times,
Wow.
and but never for 6 months at a crack. In fact, never more than 6 weeks.
Wow.
And we have our own apartment, and my son lives about 1.5 kilometers that way,
That way.
and I walk over every day, and take my grandson to school or to the bus stop, and then the youngest one goes to preschool or a babysitter, basically, because like I said, he's just less than 2. But it's great. It's awesome. The Korean people are awesome. We've just had a great time.
I love that. And I love that you and Colleen made that move because, you know, as a fellow grandparent of 7 grandchildren,
I know you
it
have so many.
it blows me away to look at their pictures and how quickly they grow. So I'm so glad you're going to be spending at least half the year with them because it just goes so fast, as you know. And even though we hate to admit it, we are not getting any younger.
That's a fact, and that every day that kind of plays on my mind.
You bet.
Um, it's hard to give up everything you've had for so many years, but at the same time, I didn't want to die in my house with all these possessions around me. And as I think we've all learned too, our kids don't want any of our junk.
That's
I
right.
mean, maybe this trinket, maybe that, whatever, of grandma's or great grandpa's or something.
Mhm.
But and I guess one of the oldest sayings in the book is you can't take it with you, so
Right.
why act like you're gonna?
Exactly. That is so true. So all these things don't matter, but those memories and that time spent mean everything. And it reminds me of when I was reading your book again the last couple of days when you talk about, and this is toward the end of the book, but it's talking about your tours of hope, which are your long, long, long bike rides, hundreds of miles, and just the perspective on life that you get when you do something like ride a bike through the mountains, and the way you describe it and the moments that you experience going up those mountains and down those mountains and looking down on clouds and seeing this, your wording was so beautiful, seeing the vista from God's point of view. It was just so beautiful, and that's what these years with these grandkids are going to be like, I think, for you.
Yeah, and to connect the dots back to the weight loss surgery, that's all great philosophy, but none of it would be possible at 404 pounds.
That's right.
So the it's kind of like, why did you go through this process of changing your lifestyle and through the use of gastric bypass, and why do you live a weight loss surgery lifestyle? Well, it's because I can take my grandson and put him on my shoulders and all of that.
Yes.
I can see the connection beautifully. It's not hard to understand how it all is a big circle of life. And I had allowed that circle to turn into a spiral
Hmm.
downward, unfortunately.
Right. Well, and at the end of your book, you write the greatest NSV non-scale victory there is living life fully. And that's what you and Colleen are doing, and I love that. And what a great way to demonstrate living life fully to the readers. So, first of all, let's get into this book. I want to thank you for your acknowledgement at the
Yeah,
beginning and
thank you.
for asking me to be one of the people that read your original script. Your book is so full of great insights, so full of wisdom, and so many amazing quotes, some of them by you and some that you have shared from other people. But what I want to do as we go through this podcast episode is go over some of the things I love the most. And then there was one thing that I want to talk to you about and see if you've gotten any heat about. And maybe you can guess what that is, but we will wait. All right.
Okay.
First of all, let me just tell you, if you guys don't know much about Bill, Bill's been very active in the bariatric community with WLSFA weight loss surgery, found weight loss surgery
Foundation.
foundation
Yeah.
of America, Foundation of America.
It's such a hard thing to say,
God,
right?
it is. It used to roll right off my tongue,
I
WLSFA,
know.
and has done a lot of work promoting the benefits of living a healthy lifestyle as a post-op. But you know what I thought was really fun is that you did gymnastics and taught dance.
Yes. And
Do you
from
miss it?
yep. I wasn't much of a gymnast. I was a great gymnastic coach, if I say so myself, and I was a pretty good dancer.
That is
And
so fun.
I, I really was. I performed some and taught a lot, and that was up until I was about 20, uh, teenage years through 20, 21 years of age. Um, and I always thought of it as being paid to work out. I mean,
Right.
they'd say we'd have a new gymnastic class start every hour, and who's going to lead the warm ups? I will. I'd volunteer every time because I get 20 minutes of working out and I get paid to do it. It was awesome.
Can't beat that for sure. So those are some fun facts. I just thought that was so cool. I love dancing, but I have just two left feet, but it's so fun to watch. Okay.
I was in jazz dance, which is very
Yeah.
active also today.
Yeah. So first of all, the title of the book, how'd you come up with it? Because I love it. Simple, not easy. Escaping the prison of obesity. And it's so true. It's like all these things in and of themselves are somewhat simple, but certainly none of it is easy.
Right. And even with the word easy, I sometimes play the advocate and say, devil's advocate and say, it was the easiest way I could find to do the hardest thing I ever
Right.
done. And there's a key difference in the word easy, the definition of easy and easiest. The easiest of a series of possibilities isn't necessarily easy.
Right.
But I think that a lot of times we get all hung up in these semantics, about people get upset and then they want to throat punch somebody because they said you took the easy way out.
Right.
And my what I've seen in a lot of people, myself, I mean, in different aspects of life, not just weight loss surgery, but we often confuse the easy or the easy hard part with the simple complicated part. And we do that to fool ourselves because if I'm trying to do something hard and I can't achieve it, I have to say, gee, I'm not succeeding at this. Whereas if I just say it's way too complicated, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a nutritionist, I'm not a, whatever the subject matter is. And it's too easy to blame your coach or blame your doctor or blame your counselor on your plan's too difficult or too complicated.
Yeah.
So, and when in fact you're just not willing to do the work.
I
And
love
so
that.
for me, it was, let's just get this down right to begin. It's very simple. It's not easy. Now, some people would come back and say, hey, I have complications of, medical complications or
Right.
whatever. understand that. But a lot of them can still be boiled down to facts. And, I've heard people say, I gain weight faster than other people and I lose it slower. Okay, that that stinks. But
Right.
it still boils down to a number, which is still an easy concept. And so, I mean, a simple concept, I'm sorry. And, but the act of whatever you have to do is not easy. The difficulty for me is one thing, the difficulty for you is another,
Right.
but we both have to come at it from a simple approach. And then I think of obesity as a prison because it restricted my freedom to do the things I want, love, need, like, all that. It was a chain around my neck and a weight. I had cement boots on, that kind of thing. And the I guess the ironic thing is nobody put me in the prison. I wasn't sentenced to it. I walked into it, locked the door behind me, and sat down and said, "Oh boy, this is horrible." So, and again, not to blame anybody for their own circumstance, but in my again, this is my story, my book. People
Right.
may have difference, and I try to allude to that or accept that I understand everybody's life and everybody's journey is different. You might have gotten that prison for a little different reason, but it's still you got into the prison and then it grabbed you and held you and kept you from the things you wanted to do.
Yes.
If it didn't, then you're happy where you're at, and we have nothing to talk about. But if you're not happy where you're at, and you feel you're imprisoned by obesity, then this is how I did it. This is what I think is a good approach to it, a good outline for it, and it allows for whatever you and whoever you are, whatever your circumstances are, can be blended into this kind of approach, and you can find yourself escaping the prison.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love the definition that you shared by Dr. Sharma, who is a bariatric doctor. And he says, a person's or a weight loss surgery patient's best weight is whatever weight they achieve while living the healthiest lifestyle they can truly enjoy. And I love that. And I say that all the time because in the work that I do, people get so hung up on a goal weight. And it's not about the weight, it's about are you doing the things that you love to do? So if you had been 10 pounds above or below the weight you were at when you got on your bicycle for 10 days at a time, it wouldn't have made a difference. You were still enjoying and loving what you were doing while you were riding that bike across the
Right.
country.
I sometimes, when people say my goal is to lose 80 pounds and I want to do it quickly, so, well, I have a plan for you, but you're not going to like it. It's called the ampu plan. We're going to cut off your right leg. And I guarantee you lose 80 pounds instantly.
Right.
But I suspect you're not going to be happy with your life. And, I don't mean to offend anybody with that analogy, but the point is the number is irrelevant.
It is.
It's totally irrelevant. But it's hard to explain that to somebody just starting out, too.
It is, yeah, because you're so fixated on wanting this weight off and just you've been so focused on numbers for so long. But I love that you now, many years out of surgery, are aware of and really can help promote that idea to people that, listen, it's about living your life fully. It's about this lifestyle. It's about being free from not just the prison of obesity in terms of weight that you physically carry, and you mention this a lot in your book, which is beautiful, but that mind and that body and that spirit connection. It's about living your life fully, not just within the parameters of being a weight loss patient, not just the
Correct.
parameters of numbers.
In fact, I believe and promote the idea that between your body, mind, and spirit, your humanness, your being is only as good as the weakest of those three things. That as much as you've elevated your life, you're vibrating. The highest you can vibrate is the weakest of those three elements.
Ooh, I like
So
that.
when I hear people weight loss surgery people say, I get the diet part, the nutrition part, but I hate exercise. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I cringe mainly because you're cutting off 1/3 of your personhood
Exactly.
and saying, okay, whatever that is, that's the foundation. Now you're not going to rise above that. And it may be because you have preconceived notions of what the exercise needs to be, but the Dr. Sharma quote, yeah, I remember that when I first heard that, it was explained to me by a guy who said I could look like Arnold Schwarzenegger if I wanted to. And people go, well, no, but I don't want to work out 19 hours a day.
Right.
I don't want
Right.
to do the things it takes to do that.
Right.
And there's a reason there's only one of him, or one at a time of that, or very few people like that, because he's given up. All we see is the movie star and that kind of thing.
Right.
We don't see the lifestyle behind it.
Right.
And frankly, I don't want that lifestyle.
Exactly. Like, I'm not willing to put that much effort into getting that body, but I am willing to put the effort into living. And you made a great point of this, prioritizing your health and wellness. And I love that you have you said situational values. You prioritize, you use brutal honesty, you planned, and I love your terminology, live by design and election. Can you explain that, living by design and election? Because I think those are key terms for people to create this lifestyle that they want.
Yeah, it's kind of my attempt at coining a term that basically is living intentionally. Intentional living, look up the definition of that. It's pretty much the same concept, but it's so important for us because it's not a broad, the intentional living, the picture of that isn't more of a broad kind of watercolor, um, blurred picture. It's got to be more specific because we're we're trying to make huge changes in our lifestyle.
Correct.
So design your day, design your week, design your month in terms of the width of your life. Everybody talks about this as a lifelong endeavor, and it is. But that's kind of a duh. Of course it is. I had irreversible surgery. But we really need to think of it as a life-wide journey because it's not what you do during your workday. It's not what you do on vacation. It's not what you do under special circumstances, funerals, weddings, whatever. It's it's not what happens when you're out with friends. It's not what happens. It's all of that.
Right.
So some people are really good at, I get up every morning at 7 a.m. and go work out. But if that was every day of the rest of your life, you're pretty set. But that it won't be. A, there's weekends. B, you travel. You're on vacation. You get sick. Someone, unfortunately passes away. You've got to be out of town. On the good side, there's a wedding. You got to be out of town. Things like this that come along. And, you can't get up at 7 a.m. to work out because you're on an airplane or you're in the car.
Right.
So it's a life-wide endeavor. And if you think of it that way, then that's why I kind of wanted to change it from mindful living or purposeful living to design the elements that, and you might do it day by day. I mean,
Right.
I don't do a lot of planning now. I'm 15 years out. I'm
Right.
planning on the broader time frames. But in the beginning, I was planning hour by hour, basically.
Right.
And then, so you design how you're going to live. And what that means is not just what you're going to do, but how you're going to handle the things that come at you. The outside stimulus that affects everybody that you can't control, you can't meter, you can't, I mean, you can try, but it's all comes at you. So your reactions are really the important part of this. So design that and kind of be pre-armed with it so that, let me think, what happens the day I no longer get sick eating this food, or the
Right.
volume I can eat goes from this size to this size.
Mhm.
How am I going to respond to that? So design your reactions and actions, and then elect to follow your plan.
Exactly.
Design an election.
Well, exactly.
That's
And I like that I like a couple of those concepts you're saying. You're talking about a life broad, the breadth of this. This is all of your life. This affects every area of your life. And so in my world, I say this goes beyond bariatrics. You've got to plan and execute what you want to do in every area of your life, and this design that you get to create yourself, that gives you a lot of power in terms of your own life, as opposed to that helpless feeling that a lot of people feel when they are in the prison of obesity. So you design and you elect to follow your plan. And I really, really like that. I think that was really cool. And there's something that I wanted to talk about, because you can say this where I cannot, because somebody would be like, speaking of throat punching, you were talking about being honest and how you had to bring honesty about a lot of these things into your life. And a lot of times, if I were to say this to people, it would sound very offensive and very judgmental. But coming from you, somebody who says, I did this, I lived this life, and I'm suspecting many of you who are in the same circumstances that I was in have done this too. So sometimes, you talked about how people say, if I do this for myself, if I prioritize myself, then I'm being selfish. And you point out that selfish is when you're living in the prison of obesity. Can you explain that? Because I totally love that.
yeah. I would always say my family comes first. But at 404 pounds, I'm at risk of, and I had rising comorbidities, blood pressure, blood sugar, cholesterol. I'm not going to be of any good to my family if I'm dead or incapacitated.
Correct.
So the honesty part came from either Bill, your family comes second to what your lifestyle you're living, or you're lying to yourself about this because your actions don't match your rhetoric. Um, and I can't tell you how many times I'd be at a wedding reception and go through the line 2 or 3 times, loaded my plate. But I noticed, now reflecting back on it, I'd kind of like hover around the side a little bit, wait, and then kind of hop in line when no one's looking. Like I'm fooling them. Now,
Mm,
no one has monitored my times through the buffet line. No
right.
one's looking at that. The only person I'm trying to fool was me. Because if I
Hmm.
stood there and said, Bill, are you going to go through the buffet line a second time and then a third time and then a fourth time? And force myself to say, yeah, I am. Why? Well, because it's probably not a healthy way to do it. You know what? Bug off. If I'm not
Right.
really having that conversation, then what I'm doing is, first time I even think about that, I, I tell myself, no, shut up. It's not, I'm, it's none of your business, and of course I don't want to argue with myself, so I can easily transfer that to other people. They would think I don't want them, and so it's that kind of honesty that requires you examine, do your actions fit your values that you're claiming to live by. Now, I went through training on human behavioral studies and whatnot during my pre-op part because I wanted to understand how that worked. And so that's where that idea of situational values came along. These are not values about right or wrong, life and death, good and bad, God and devil, all that stuff.
Hmm.
This is situational values. Um, and so it's kind of like why at weight loss surgery conferences or events I'm at, I tend not to drink. I don't have a drink. Now, I had a glass of wine 2 nights ago with my wife. I will have a beer. It has to be controlled, and it's small amounts, and it's kind of rare. But a value for me is that if people are going to look at me and say, "Man, you're a 15-year post-op. You've done good with this. I want to learn from you," then I'm going to project the highest value I can think of, embodying actions, words, deeds, and live by those values at that moment. So when it comes time to now, it's not like if you and I were together somewhere, I wouldn't go out and we might not have a glass of wine. That's fine. That's different. You and I just were at a conference, nothing happened tonight. Let's go see what's happening over here. But in a group and thing, that's just the kind of value. Maybe that's not the greatest example, but it's first thing came to mind.
Sure.
But that way, what I like to say is in the book here, the pictures, this guy lived a lifestyle that produced a 404-pound body. This guy lives a lifestyle that produces a 170-pound body. And
Mm-hmm.
the reason for that, the results are different because the actions are different. The actions are different because the values I'm bouncing my options against are different. And therefore, spin it back around the other way. Stimulus comes in, I run into a value, causes an action, action leads to a result. One result I'm happy with, and one result I'm not. And that's where, again, the simple, not easy part comes in because that was pretty simple to say. It's very
Mm-hmm.
difficult to live.
Right. So basically, what I hear you saying is, are my actions in line with my values? Is what I'm going to do in this situation, whether it's go out and drink, whether it's go out and go through the buffet line 3 times, is this congruent with what I say I want? And if it's not, then I'm not being consistent and following through with my values.
Right. And ultimately, I kind of spin it the other way and say, are these values going to drive the action that produces the result I want?
Exactly. It can be spun either way. Totally love
Right.
that. Yeah, different
Right.
ways of thinking about that and coming from different perspective. I
Yeah.
want to jump back to again, you said, well, you talked about lifestyle, and I want to talk about that too, because the pictures you showed, and I want you to explain this because you did it really well in the book. But you said this 400-pound man had a lifestyle consistent with being 400 pounds. This 180-pound man, 200-pound man lives a lifestyle consistent with the values and the lifestyle of a 200-pound man. Can you explain that a little bit more?
Yeah. Often people ask me about, like, well, you work out a lot, must take a lot of discipline and or a lot of motivation. And it's really not that. It's that because you're kind of looking at the result and then wondering why it's not delivering, as opposed to backing up and saying, when I go to work out, I'm not like, oh, the alarm rang, it's time to go work out today. I may have that set, but what comes in my head is in order to do what I want to do, whether it's planning for a big bike ride or just be able to fit in medium sized clothing, it requires that I move my body in certain ways. And therefore, I elect, design election again, I elect to follow the design I have for that workout, for that physical activity plan. And it because I'm working from the value to the action to the result. Um, I think that if I had kind of designed that and then it wasn't delivering the result I want, it's really kind of a loop,
Mhm.
and it's all part of my business training. This is
Right.
not much different than running a project of where am I, where do I want to be, what budget do I have, what resources do I have, and so on. And it should lead to this result. But periodically I check, and if I'm not achieving the result, I can go back and check my values. I can
Right.
check my how much I'm electing to follow that
Right.
plan.
Priorities and
And it gives you a kind of a evaluation loop there where
mhm,
I am doing what I designed. I am electing to follow that. I did have it is kind of rooted in a value which leads to an action, but the results are not there yet.
right.
Well, maybe that I made an assumption back in the beginning that isn't right. Maybe I do have that slower metabolism or whatever.
Mhm.
Maybe I've balanced out some of the results with the requirements and found I don't want to be Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'm happy being, this other guy.
Yeah,
So I can adjust those things along the way.
right.
And so you fine tune as you go.
Right.
Um, I think that, I had a person who had been on the band for a couple of years, and they said they were going to go and convert to the Rouen Y. And I asked why. And she said to me, "Oh, it's simple. It's because I have a sugar addiction and I just have to get that out of my system." And I realized, honey, that's not, it's the band, the lap band, the sleeve, none of that. It's not your problems here, not here. You
Mhm.
have to deal with this. And it doesn't matter. I mean, you can cut yourself off from the neck down if you're still throwing sugar in your mouth
Right.
because of this. Um, so sometimes we have unrealistic expectations, or,
Oh,
and I
yes.
don't mean this, I don't mean this pejoratively, but ignorant expectations. I mean
Well,
uneducated.
right.
I'm not. It's not throwing shade there. It's you don't know what you don't know,
Right. And
and
you mentioned that in your book. You said you were uneducated about, and that's how you're using the term ignorant. You were uneducated growing up about this kind of a lifestyle. And I think that's important for people to remember in this process is, there are some things maybe you didn't learn about nutrition or about exercise or about lifestyle in general that you have to learn as you get into this process. And I want to jump back, Bill, and go back to those two pictures you were showing. And I want to connect the dots for the listeners between the mind, body, and spirit and this lifestyle you're talking about. So the 400-pound guy in that picture is living the lifestyle of a 400-pound guy, not exercising, eating a lot, not and you mentioned this in the book, just having this attitude. So as a 400-pound guy, you're not that motivated to get out and be the athlete you were as a younger man or that you are now. So you have this mindset of, I'm not going to do this. And then the spirit says, well, poor me, poor me. So those things are all connected. Now, as a 180-pound guy, you have this mindset of, I can do hard things. I'm going to design this lifestyle. I'm going to follow through with the actions. I'm going to elect to follow through with the actions. I'm going to feel better physically, which is going to boost my emotions. I'm going to like who I am better. My self esteem, you talk about in the book, is going to increase. And I'm going to feel better about life in general. So the mind, body, and spirit are all connected in the lifestyle of
yes,
each of those different men you show in those pictures, which are both you.
right, right, yeah. The unfortunately, I had this cycle of I would I would try to motivate myself to make a change, so I'd find some hope and inspiration, but it would quickly fall to embarrassment and fear of embarrassment, which would lead to hopelessness and anger, which then manifested itself as depression and self loathing, and ultimately the withdrawal from that inspiration and hope that I flamed on for a second and
Mhm.
had to find a way to stop that, like I say, that destructive cycle.
Right.
Um, I, when I first started riding a bike, I had to call upon my mind to fight my body because my body didn't want to ride up a hill. There's a mountain
Sure.
and it's going
Yeah.
to be tough. Um, Once I got to the top of the mountain, and like you mentioned, seeing the world from God's eye, I mean, that my spirit was so filled with
Mhm.
awe and an overwhelming sense of accomplishment and all that, that today, if I'm on a bike and I'm riding and I see a mountain, I don't say I wonder if I can get up there. I say I can't wait to see what's waiting for me up there.
Oh, wow.
And that is, to me, engaging. My body's going to pull me up there. My mind knows what to do to get up there. And my spirit is just enthralled with the idea that more is up there for me.
I love that.
And all three of them are pedaling the bike for
That's
me.
right.
Whereas when I was bemoaning the fact that I have a mountain to climb up, my mind was fighting my body and my spirit was nowhere to be found. It checked out a long time
Right.
ago. So I was trying to ride up a hill with one foot basically on a
Right.
pedal and one hand on
Right.
a handlebar. And when my mind gets in the game and my spirit gets in the game, boy, that triangle. And sometimes it's tough to tell which one is which one is the highest vibrating
You
level of
bet.
me,
You bet.
which one's lower, and they all deliver
That's
for me.
right. Okay, so I'm going to jump back for just a minute because I want you to say these things again because I can't. One of the things that is hard for people who are struggling with their weight and trying to escape this prison of obesity is people think, and I thought when I was using drugs and alcohol, and people think a lot of times when they're struggling with obesity is that their behavior doesn't affect anybody else. And you said you create, I love some of the examples you gave. You create worry and fear in the minds of your friends and family because of your weight. You seem to sleep through the snoring and sleep apnea grunts, but others in your house must listen to it all night. And then you mentioned, as you said earlier, you say family comes first, but your actions suggest otherwise. I want you to say those things because if I say that to people, they're very offended. But if it comes from somebody who's lived it and has said, wow, I had to look back and go, I was really affecting the lives of the people I love. And it's not a pejorative thing, like you said, it's just a reality and being honest with yourself.
Yeah, I don't know. My sons have never said to me that they got teased by their friends because they had a fat dad. But I have no doubt that happened. I mean, it just observe for a half a day when you walk around and see things. People are cruel. People can be mean. If nothing else, they're just innocent things too. I was walking through the mall one day with my wife, and this kid, I don't know, he was 4 or 5 maybe, holding his hands with his mom as they're walking, and right out loud in this story goes, "Look, mommy, that man's as fat as Santa Claus."
Oh, wow.
And of course, the mom wilted and grabbed her kid and everything, and I'm there going, you wanted to disappear.
Yeah.
Um, so did my kids have to put up with that? Probably. Did my wife have to put up with that? Probably. Um, and did it ever cost me a promotion at work or something? I don't know. But those kind of things, even more so, is I always got the front seat of the car, because I was the big guy. You're not going to
Mhm.
fit in back. You're Bill, you get the front seat. I mean, you could be a pregnant woman and they were throwing you in the back seat so I could get in front.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's that's selfishness 101
Mm,
is living your life in such a way that you put that fear in other people and say, it's none of my business. What? No, that's selfish.
yeah.
It's like I said, I was kind of a jerk in a way because I, in order to avoid the feeling, I was happy to just transfer that to other people.
Right.
You
Right.
deal with the fact that I can't accept the fact that I'm obese and I don't like it and I don't want it. And there's so much of it is because of my own actions. But when you be honest, when you come up with, you know, I think on that one I said, put yourself first. You have to prioritize yourself first.
Absolutely.
My old boss down in Atlanta used to say, conflict occurs when you try to achieve two first goals,
Oh,
first
yes.
objectives. You can't serve. I mean, you can go biblical on it. You can't serve two masters
You're right.
at the same time. And So conflict occurs when you try to do that, and conflict is usually resolved poorly in those instances,
Right.
either by saying, I don't care what other people's opinions are, or it's my business, not yours, or whatever. If you strip all that away and just ask yourself, what do you really want out of life? And what are the honest reactions you're going to have and the honest actions you're going to have to take to make that change? You realize, I got to put myself first so that I can
Absolutely.
have a second, third, fourth, and fifth priority. It's not some matter of, well, you like yourself when you're kids. No, I like myself enough to do this for my kids.
Right. Right. Okay, so I want to talk about this little thing that I'm wondering if you've gotten any flack about. And it's because this could be, I could see this being controversial. So what you wrote in the book is a person loses weight one way and one way only. They take in fewer calories than their body burns. It's been that way since day one, and it will likely be this way till the end of time. It's simple math, addition, and subtraction learned in the first grade. Add the calories eaten and subtract the calories your body pumps out. So you're basically saying that that obesity is about calories in, calories out. And I'm wondering if people are giving you a hard time about that.
Well, in the book, and in the very beginning, when I just was looking at weight loss surgery, I did a little, and it's in the book for people to do for themselves too, a little analysis of, all right, if I'm taking in too many calories, what are the reasons for that? What's the circumstance? And I figured there was 5 things. I either eat too much, I eat the wrong stuff, I eat at the wrong times, I eat for the wrong reasons, or I have medical situations that are affecting how, where, when, or why I eat. And for each of those, I thought, if my physiology is my problem, then my first source ought to be a medical doctor, someone to help me with my physiology, explain to me that, I have this slow metabolism, or I have this comorbidity, I have this condition, whatever it is, that makes it difficult for me to shed calories, or to manage them that way. If it's emotional, like I eat for the wrong reasons, I should get counseling.
Mm-hmm.
I should find out why. Often people say we're all overweight because we have a food addiction, and I never thought of myself as having a food addiction.
Mm-hmm.
Very subtle difference, but I thought of myself as having a consumption addiction, meaning it
Mm-hmm.
didn't matter what it was,
Right.
acquiring money, having a hobby,
Yes, I agree with
whatever it
you.
was, I wanted to do the most,
Right.
greatest, the biggest. That was my thing. So, uh, as a teenager, I was known as the mostest or the leastest.
Oh,
I could I could eat 19 meals a day, or I could go 19 days without eating anything.
ah,
So I had an addiction to the extremes.
yeah,
Um,
it's a good point.
so in that case, then, if you find you're eating for the wrong reasons, you have, maybe you're eating because of some kind of a trauma or some kind of a barrier you have psychologically, then go seek counseling
Right.
first. If you're eating at the wrong times or the wrong stuff, see a nutritionist, see a coach. Get that. It may be a little less medical, a little less psychological, and a little more behavioral.
Mm-hmm.
But in my case, when I weighed out, if it's too much bad stuff, wrong time, wrong reasons, and the physiology, the biggest element I saw was I simply eat too much because I viewed myself as a consumption junkie. Always wanted, Billy likes to be first, Billy likes to win. Billy likes that kind of stuff.
Billy.
Yeah. So I say in the book, I either had to find a way to restrict the input or hire somebody to knock food out of my hand.
Mm-hmm.
And that wasn't practical. And so
No.
that's, I don't see a problem with those two statements. calorie in, calorie out, because it's not that simple. The math is that simple. The reasons can be any combination of those things. And I'm not saying I was 100% on the no off switch part. I put about 50% of my problem there, 20% on the eating at the wrong times because of my travels and the things I was involved in life at the time. 10% on I had it depends on when you do this, but going back enough, a lot of it was just eating the wrong and bad stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Once I had a diet and nutrition class, I learned what to eat, when to eat it. That kind of helped.
Yeah.
And I had some emotional issues. I had some psychological issues, but the biggest element for me seemed to be the no off switch. So
Mm.
the answer for that doesn't mean I haven't had consult. I haven't sought a counselor
Sure.
or gotten some advice. I, I, I've consulted nutritionists
Sure.
and all that along the way. But the primary, when people say, "Should I have weight loss surgery?" My answer would be, "I don't know.
Right.
Why are you having this issue?
Right.
Let's examine that." And it may be that you have to handle that emotional baggage and then corrected in order to help speed along the process. Maybe weight loss surgery is a good option
Right.
as a second step.
The reason I thought that people might give you a little bit of a hard time about that is because a lot of people are, a lot of, well, women for sure have polycystic ovarian syndrome, PCOS, which biologically can make it extraordinarily difficult for weight to come off, regardless of calories in or out. So I wondered, oh my gosh, that might ruffle some feathers. And I was just wondering if you'd gotten any flack about any of that.
No, I think on the physiology side, it can get complicated like that. Where
Right. Right.
now I'm not a doctor, I don't know this for a fact, but I think regardless, or maybe not regardless, but in many cases, whatever that physiology problem is, it still might involve calories in, calories out.
Agreed.
It's
Agreed.
not it's not the simple 3,500 plus or minus. You
Right.
know, maybe you gain a pound if you eat 2,000 calories extra, and it takes
Sure.
5,000 for you to lose a pound.
Huh.
Again, that's bad. That that sucks for
Right.
you, but it doesn't invalidate the fact that this is still an element into what's affecting you.
I love that.
And I feel for that. I feel for people like that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Um, but in that case, the the medical part of it is, I mean, don't even consider some of these other things until you've at least started down that road
Yeah.
to manage that with whatever
Exactly.
it is.
And I love that you clarify that because I don't want people to be turned off by that because I think what you're saying is both things are true. Your
Right,
rate might not be 3,500 calories equals 1 pound gained or lost. It may be a different number based on your biology. So I'm glad that
right.
you clarified that. I
Yeah,
wanted,
thanks.
yeah, go ahead.
Thanks for allowing me to do that because yeah, I don't want people
Absolutely.
to get
Yeah,
mis informed about it or turned off to I'm not
exactly.
reading any more of this,
Well,
kind of
because I
thing.
know you and I know how sympathetic you are to the realities of individual situations. And so I wanted to make sure people are like, well, he's not saying that there are not other issues that can complicate the matter. So good. All right. I want to move on to, I just have like 10 minutes left. So I want to move on to, this was beautiful. And this is straight from the book. Success with weight loss surgery is predicated on one, learning and using life skills and practices we hadn't previously learned or we're just not good at doing. I love that. It's acknowledging, listen, I didn't understand about, the lifestyle. I didn't understand about nutrition well enough. I didn't understand about the connection between mind, body, and spirit. Two, using practices that these new skills like communication to set boundaries or the dietary needs of my body to modify your behavior. And three, continuously developing and fine tuning those skills as you move through the journey. I love that. That is
Yeah,
simple, straightforward, and beautifully stated.
Thank you. Yeah. And I, I, I really wish sometimes that so many people would say, I'm not what my doctor says, or, you know, they take the thing outside of themselves. It's, it's listen to your doctor, listen to your nutritionist, listen to your coach, all that stuff. But none of them can lose the weight, change their lifestyle, or have a new way of approaching life but you.
That's right.
The only essential part of that is you.
Exactly.
And so if you don't believe in yourself, if you don't have the answers, you know, people say, I hate the question, how do you lose the weight? Because I don't want to hear you took the easy way out.
Right.
That's because you don't have an answer for yourself. I have an answer for that question. Nobody has ever given me shade about that.
Good
They
for
don't
you.
want to. I'm
Yep.
too excited about what I've achieved and why.
That's right.
And I have an answer for that. My answer is weight loss surgery is not the reason. It's the fact that I used it as a tool to
That's
make the
right.
appropriate lifestyle change. So if you want to cast shade my way for that, have at it, man. Except, excuse me, and while you're doing that, I'm going to go ride my bike. You know, if you're still talking about it when if you're still talking about it when I come by, I'll wave. But
I
you
love
know,
that.
pizza, it's just not part of my
Love
dialogue
it.
because I have an answer for that potential insult. Um,
Absolutely.
so that's the key thing there. You are the only essential ingredient in the whole journey.
Absolutely. And I love that you said nobody can do this for you. You have to do this for yourself. And the way you described it in your book, plan it, and execute it. So I love that. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is, and I honestly think, Bill, I think you should have a Wheaties box with your picture on it. Didn't somebody make you one of those once?
I made it myself.
Oh, it was so awesome. There should be, because you have done not just one amazing bike ride, you have done 6 tours of hope. That is phenomenal. Your Wheaties box is well earned. And I want you to describe and explain to the listeners of the podcast what these tours of hope are and what they were like for you, and just how they can find their own version of tours of hope.
Well, I, I was starting to take a bike. I mean, I'm walking, and a friend of mine said, "Do you own a bike?" I said, "Yeah, it's in the garage, you know, from way back." He said, "I don't want to walk. I want to ride a bike." So we started riding bikes, and that kind of got me into it. And so it was about my 5 year mark, maybe 4.5 years, something in there, post op. And I was going to be a speaker at Obesity Help in Raleigh, North Carolina. And we had a speakers call. And everybody on that call had all kinds of initials behind their name and credentials and all that. And I was just some bloke that lost weight. So in a way, I was feeling like, man, why am I on this panel? Why am I doing it? Why did it happen to me? And I don't know why. I'm on the phone and, well, Bill, tell us about yourself. And I said, I'm going to ride my bicycle from my home in Columbus down there for the conference. And I mean, I no sooner got it out of my mouth and I'm like, why did I say that? Maybe they didn't hear me, you know?
You
And
blurted.
yeah. And of course they heard me like, oh, that's great. We'll promote it more. So I thought, well, all right, I'm into it. And I looked at the map and it was 525 miles.
Oh my gosh.
I laid out a course for 10 days. And it occurred to me that I should do this. Originally, it was kind of to honor my own journey. And then I realized, how about if I make it so that it helps other people raise money for weight loss surgeries? And that became the first tour of hope. And I describe it in the book because it was a very life changing, life creating, life affirming kind of an event for me. Those 10 days made me a different person and gave me a whole different outlook on life. Such that, all right, I'm going to do this again and again and again. So I've ridden across Texas. I've ridden from Seattle to Portland. I've ridden from Georgia down through Florida. The shortest one was about 400 miles. The longest one, 525.
Wow.
Ridden from my home in Columbus up to a lake house in Gaylord, Michigan, 428 miles. Rides from shortest one was 4.5, 5 days. Longest one was 10 days. And there hasn't been a time when something new hasn't been revealed to me, a life affirming or life creating kind of an experience that I wouldn't have found any other way. This would not have happened to me any other way but through this.
Yeah.
And it taught me that to follow the words of the explorer, that, dream big and dare to fail. I
Dream
was
big
always a
or
guy who
dare to
didn't like
fail.
to fail. I didn't
Mhm.
like to fail, and I didn't like to make mistakes and errors and whatnot. I still struggle with that. But nothing of importance was ever accomplished by sitting still. It's just
So true.
you have to do something, and chances are you have to test the limit. Chances are you have to find capacities inside you that you didn't even know existed and bring them out. And once you do that, they're now you. You
That's
now
so
own
true.
them, and you can call on them anytime you want for that next problem, that next situation, that next lifestyle transition, whatever it is. Um,
Wow.
going through this thing with my voice, having lost my voice to a tumor in my neck. I
Hmm.
mean, my initials are BS. I was born talking, like the loon, like your mother.
Your initials
No,
are BS.
yeah, and I was shaking hands with the doctor and giving the nurses, that was me. And as soon as my voice got taken away, like, how am I going to, who am I? What am I? How can I be me?
Yeah.
It was, it was the hardest. I could not have survived that without having learned the things I've learned in
Right.
adopting and living a weight loss surgery lifestyle. It prepared me for this. Otherwise, I'd be on the floor crying every day and yeah, I've had 6 subsequent surgeries, and I can at least talk out loud now, even if it is somewhat hoarse and I do slur a word. My tongue's paralyzed, my vocal cords are paralyzed, right side of my throat's paralyzed.
Wow.
But you know, I don't care how big the mountain is now. I'll ride up that mountain. I don't care what I have to overcome to be able to say the things I want to say. I have something to say, and I'm going to say
I
it.
love it.
And so it's all these, like, because of the tour hopes, because of those bike rides, a few people have gotten surgery and that kind of thing. That's great, but you never give a gift without receiving a gift. It's just the way life works, and
I
the
love it.
gifts I've received by that have been instrumental in helping me move beyond the throat issue and even just being 70 years old. I'm
Hmm.
I still want to think of myself as I'm 35, but I'm
Right.
not.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear you. And I think that a beautiful message for that is because some people, I was just thinking while I was listening to you, what an amazing, amazing accomplishment that is, those tours of hope. And I was thinking, gosh, people might be like, well, I could never do that. But here's the deal, each of us has a tour of hope that may or may have nothing to do with riding a bicycle, but each of us has struggles in our life. And when we overcome something really difficult, I was thinking as you were talking, when I moved from Iowa to Texas with 3 kids and a husband, and we sold our house and we lived in a pop up camper for 6 weeks and we had no house in Texas, also that I could go to school. And what you were talking about, what I've learned is the lessons that I learned about myself in that journey. I went through a horrible depression. I went through a horrible anxiety and OCD experience and all of that. And using whatever resources we have and the gifts that we were given and seeking the help that we needed and the training that we needed. We've all got something to put our face on the box of a Wheaties about. So find yours, recognize that you have done your own tour of hope in some way, shape, or form. And if you haven't, get out there and do it. You will learn so much about yourself and it
Absolutely.
will change who you are. And I love how you talk about becoming. Always be becoming. Talk
Right.
about that for just a minute as we wrap up.
I happened during one of the tours of hope, the ride up to Michigan. Um, Halfway up, there was a Dr. Steve Bono was riding with me, and his in-laws lived in the area. We were camping nearby. It was a totally camping-related bike ride. We stayed in campgrounds each night. So they said, his in-laws said, we're going to come to your campground, bring you something to eat, see how you're doing, and whatnot. And his father-in-law was said many interesting things and gave me insights, but he was talking about his garden. And his neighbor saw him out there working, tilling and whatnot, and said, you have a nice garden. And he said, well, it's becoming a garden. And the fact that kind of struck me, that he had dirt, he had fertilizer, he had watered it, he had the seeds or the seedlings, he had all the elements of a garden, but it wasn't a garden yet. It was in the process of becoming a garden. And it just struck me that, man, we have all the elements. I have a mind, a body, and a spirit. I've got all the things I need to be able to create something. I'm not it. I'm until I become it. And my act is until I use my tools to become something. And of course, once you can start marshaling those resources and move toward becoming something, you realize, wow, what I really want is to become that. And that's a platform. And they say, if I can see far, it's because I'm standing on the shoulders of giants. Make
Mhm.
yourself the giant you're standing on.
Yes.
I mean, I'm my success with one thing is based on the success I had with this a previous thing. So
Right.
I didn't settle on being this. I worked to become it, and then saw something else I wanted to become, and then saw something else I wanted to become. And I hope I die in the process of trying to become something new, and not just like, well, I'm done.
Wow, I love that. Always be becoming. Great way to wrap up. This book is great, Bill. I really know that when people read this, they will be encouraged, they will be inspired. You give a really great summary at in so many of the chapters and just step by step by step and really great outlines and tools and tables that can really help people, especially those with a right, a left, let's see, is the left brain, logical
Yeah,
mind, but
yeah.
also the people with a right brain because you have that side of your personality too. So remember, the book is, friends, it is simple, not easy. Escaping the Prison of Obesity by Bill Streetman. Bill, I
On
can't wait
Amazon.
till you're back stateside because I know you're coming to the ATL and we will get
Yes,
together and you tell Colleen I can't wait to see both of you and we will get together and share again and in the meantime enjoy those boys,
thank
your
you.
your son, your daughter-in-law, your beautiful family. Is your other son coming to visit you guys all there?
They're scheduled times over time. I don't think we're going to get us all here at one time
Ah,
now, but maybe when we come back in the spring. Um,
beautiful.
and real quick, thank you for helping me with the book, because the original manuscript that you got a chance to review and comment on really helped massage it into the final product.
It's
Um,
amazing.
I asked for honest and direct feedback, and I got it from you, and that's invaluable. It's
Thank
a
you.
much better product because of what you, the feedback you gave me. So thank you.
You are so welcome, and it is an incredible book. I've read it a couple of times and enjoyed every minute of it. So I definitely encourage people to read it. I will post it. I don't know when this podcast will drop, but I will let you know, and I will put all of your information in the show notes. All right.
Very good. Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Safe travels. Enjoy every single day and keep becoming. You're an amazing man, and I am
Yes.
grateful to call you a friend.
Same here. I appreciate you. Thank you very
All
much.
right. Hugs to you and Colleen. All righty. Bye.
Bye bye.